Okay, now the first thing I want to show just before we begin, the introduction that I had left. So this is what I have come up with. You can just take a quick read. I've returned it to you. Right. So I think it fits well. You can give me your comments about it, your feedback. So I've included the point that you wanted to make that we are, the ones in control, so to speak. So writing that we're chaperones, but we are mistreating animals, and right, we're not the only living beings up on this planet. We're just trying to include your thoughts, but in a more structured way, I would say, that is relevant to leading into your speech about zoos. Do you think that works? Okay, it does. Right. So with that, right, so return that to you. With that, let's move on to November 2024, paper 1, variant 1. Right, so here you can see it, and we are starting with the insert. So text A with relation to uh, question 1 and 2. Actually, one thing that we can do, right, and something that you can do in your exam as well, is you can take a look at the question paper and not reading the questions first, but just scrolling past question 1 and taking a look at where question 2 begins and see which line it is. I don't know if I mentioned this the last time we did this, but they're mentioning that the first question and question 2 are from lines 47 and 48. And so if you take a look at the text, just a sec. Okay, so if you take a look at lines for alaikum assalam beta, 47 and 48, that is paragraph 10, right? Which tells us that we need to read up till and including paragraph 9 for question 1 of the comprehension. So another way of attempting this is, instead of reading the whole thing, you can read it in two parts, because we know they're not going to ask us questions from paragraph 10 in question 1, right? They might ask us something earlier, but as we saw, question 2 is beginning from lines 47, 48, then you go line 48, 50, 52, and then right, 53 and 54, and then they give you this chunk over here, which is 57 to 63. So nothing before that. And so we can break our reading into two parts as well, and that's what I will practice right now. So what I'm going to ask you to do is read the text from the start up till and including paragraph 9, right? And we will leave this part of the text, which is related to paragraph question 2, for later. So when we get to question 2, we'll read this text and then we'll attempt question 2, and that way it will be fresher in our minds as compared to reading the whole thing as a chunk and then going back and attempting all the questions. So here we are, right? Do read the introductory lines. They don't normally ask you anything about it, but it gives you an idea of what it's about, right? So here's the text, and zoom in a bit. Can I squeeze in 4 paragraphs? I can. Okay, so that's 4 paragraphs for you on screen, and read through it and let me know when you're done, so I'll scroll further. All right, so let's scroll forward. All right, so that's paragraph 5 to 8. Go through that, and then we'll take a look at paragraph 9 as well. And here's paragraph 9. So just 9, don't read ahead, just paragraph 9. Okay, so right, going back to the start and then now looking at the questions. So, question 1A. In what way, so one more question, in what way does the geography of the Strait of the Dardanelles make it one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world? Now, again, that line reference is from one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world is taken. How does the geography make it one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world? Anyone?
There were many people like traveling.
No.
It is connecting four seas, offering access from Asia and Europe.
Yes. Right. And since I've said yes, uh, right, narrow strip of water flows between four seas. So yes, Bakar, I would expect you are going to say same. Ah, okay. So right, that is the correct answer. They've actually in the mark scheme they've given it uh, as three different points, but any one is allowed, right? Because it's a one mark question. So it flows between four seas is one point. It can be accessed from Asia, from Europe and Asia, or it connects four seas, or it connects two continents, or it connects Europe and Asia, right? So if you phrase it any of these three ways, you will get your mark. They will not award you a mark if you only say it can be accessed from different points. The reason for that, I believe, is because they're asking particularly about the geography, right? That's what the question's about. So when they're asking about geography, just saying different points is not enough. You need to give some geographical lingo in there as well. Okay, so we have our one mark. Explain what Calum or Callum is feeling when he says, oh, right? So that interjection over there, what is he feeling? So that's the beginning of paragraph 2. Now, even though it's paragraph 2, you need to look at why did he say that? Why was that his response or reaction? And then, think of the answer. Anyone?
He is shocked.
Shocked by?
The tanker had
Hmm. Bakar?
He was amazed by seeing a lot of people there.
Amazed, yes, but not by the people. It is about the tankers and huge ships. Okay, and they've actually allowed, uh, various feelings. So they've allowed amazed, shocked, surprised, impressed, and even nervous. And those are obviously like different. So being shocked and being impressed and being surprised, they're all very different, right? And nervous is obviously even more different. But it's all about his feeling towards, his reaction was after seeing those freighters and tankers. All right, next question. From paragraph 2, give two ways. So this is obviously in explicit meaning question. Give two ways in which the waters of the strait are different from the waters Callum and Matt are used to swimming in. 2 points for 2 marks from paragraph 2. Sorry, could you repeat that, Haram?
Like, do we have to compare them?
Like, you don't have to compare, oh, the water here was like this, and then the water this swam in was like this. You can just give points both for, the uh, the waterway. What's the word they're using over here? Uh, yeah, the waters of the strait, or for the river, or 1 point for the water of the strait, and 1 point for the river, as long as it's not the same point of comparison, right? If it's the same point of comparison and you're giving it as two separate points, then it won't count. Right, so do we have a response?
Yeah.
Can I show the question again? Of course I can. So that's question 1C, Bakar. From paragraph 2, give two ways in which the waters of the strait are different from the waters Callum and Matt are used to swimming in.
They are used to clean and clear, clean and quiet lakes.
So the water at home was clean. That's 1 point. I mean, it's given quite clearly over here, right? So we we felt a long way from the peaceful lakes and clear rivers back home. So right, they were peaceful and they were clear at home. Now, if you are giving it from the perspective of the water that they were used to swimming in, right? I mean, they've given it to you as bullet points. You don't need to formulate a full sentence. You can just write. But you need to give context about whether you're talking about the waters of the strait or you're talking about the waters they're swimming in. And so, even though they've given bullet points, you will write uh, they were uh, they were used to swimming in, and then you write uh, peaceful lakes for the first bullet point, and for the second bullet point, you can write just clear rivers, right? If you are going to take it the other way, then it sort of becomes implicit, right? Why does it become implicit? Because they don't clearly mention it. The mark scheme obviously does give points for both. So for this one, they say that right, they're going to allow if you're going to focus on what is explicitly stated, and that the waters, or they are used to swimming in waters that are quiet and calm and peaceful and everything, and are clear or not polluted or something. Now, if you're going to focus on the like the waters of the strait, its qualities are not given directly. And so what you're doing then is you're sort of turning a question that can be very easily handled in terms of explicit meaning, you're changing that into an implicit meaning question, which kind of puts you in a tricky situation, because then you say, oh, this was the open heart of the Turkish industry, and you have these tankers and freighters and everything in it, right? And so that would make it noisy as compared to being peaceful. It would make it polluted or dirty as compared to being clear or clean. Well, the term used is clear. And then a third thing is because they've mentioned the open heart of the Turkish industry, that these waters were industrial. Right now, in this situation, as Haram asked, do we need to make a comparison? You don't need to make a comparison, this versus this. Either mention one side or the other, or 1 point for one side, 1 point for the other side. That also works, right? As long as it's not the same. So what I mean, if it's the same point of comparison, is that I write they are used to swimming in peaceful waters at home, and the waters over there were uh, noisy, right? I do not believe that would work because it's the same point of comparison, right? So you mentioned, oh, they were peaceful, and then the waters in the strait were polluted, right? So peaceful and polluted are two different things. So that would work. Does the mark scheme mention anything of the sort? Uh, so except in either order, or if both responses are in one limb, or if a correct answer straddles both limbs. Right, so you can do either or, as I've explained, if I understand this correctly. So the point I was trying to make in this situation, if you can answer the question directly, don't try to complicate it. Right? If there's an explicit meaning answer that's available, because they're telling you to take it from paragraph 2, then don't try to complicate it by making it implicit. Right? And I believe the same holds true somewhat, not directly, for question D. So let's take a look at question D. Identify two details, and so it's identify. So basically, again, you need to take it directly from the text. Two details that show why people call this the world's oldest swim. Right? Why do people call this the world's oldest swim? So here we are, right? Line 13 is where this is given. And so from this paragraph, you need to figure out, what is it, 2 points, right? Yeah, so 2 marks, 2 points of why is it called the world's oldest swim?
There are ancient places.
Right, could you repeat that, Haran?
There are ancient places.
Ancient castles.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another point?
And the Greek myths.
Hmm?
Greek myths.
Greek myths. What are those Greek myths?
Like they tell us that land is swimming across the street at night.
Right. Okay. Anyone else with the points? Right. So Dua mentions Lord Byron, who swam across it, and Afin, you're mentioning the Greek myths of Leander swimming the strait as well. Barker, same. Okay, convenient, right? I hope you are actually, finding the points. Uh, right. Now, if we take a look at the text and the question again first, the question is about it being called the world's oldest swim. Now, here again, what I want to do, right? The mark scheme has 4 points, four possible points. I need two of them, but when I'm answering the paper during the exam, I don't know what points the mark scheme has. All I know is I need to find two valid points because it's worth 2 marks. And so my approach again would be to take the most obvious response because they all carry the same weightage. And because it's about the world's oldest swim, I want to find something that has to do with swimming, right? And so Greek myths tell of Leander swimming across the strait. We don't need to include this detail, right? So We can mention Greek myths, or we can just mention Leander swam across the strait because it's about swimming, and the question's about the world's oldest swim. And then the second one is Lord Byron swam across it as well, right? I believe this is a typo. On his second attempt in 1810, he did, because sorry, the mark scheme mentions that I don't know if it's a typo because they mention something about Lord Byron dying when I was swimming. So, but they also mention it 1810. So let's forget the typo thing. So yes, so mentioning Lord Byron succeeding, like swimming across the strait in 1810 and the Greek myth, right? For me, these two are very sure answers, and so that's what I'm going to go with. Now, as Haram suggested, the ruins of the ancient castles, that is one of the points given in the mark scheme. So the shores of the strait are scattered with the dusty ruins of ancient castles, and so mentioning the ruins of ancient castles is a valid point. And also, the city of Troy was long situated there. That is also a given point, right? So that's the 4 points given in the mark scheme. Now, again, right, even though I know that now, if in the exam I were in this situation, I would not go for these two options unless, you know, this was missing. If this was missing, then I wouldn't have much of a choice. But since I have these 2 points which are clearly mentioning swimming, and the question is about the world's oldest swim, these are more sure answers as compared to mentioning the ruins. Although Haram, your answer was correct, right? So that's fine. So I'm just saying, you know, play it safe. You don't have to prove anything. The only thing you have to prove is you can get those marks.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you have to prove. Okay. So explain question 1E. We haven't come across an own words question yet, have we? Interesting. There's only one of those. All right. Explain what Matt is thinking when he says they weren't really talking to me. You need 2 points to explain this. You need to explain this. So probably implicit, line 24, and so that is paragraph 5.
Sir, can you repeat the question again?
Yes. Question 1E. Explain what Matt is thinking when he says they weren't really talking to me.
Okay.
All right, Baka, I'm going to ask you first this time. What do you think that line means? Baka, do you have a response? You thinking? Okay, so because he was not among the less capable swimmers. So that's one way of putting it. You don't need to repeat the question. Don't repeat the question as part of your answer. He thinks that they weren't talking to him because the question's there. It's printed right above the space for the answer. So if you're repeating the question, it doesn't count, and you are utilizing the space given for the answer to just repeat the question. So you're wasting space, you're wasting time, you're wasting your ink. So don't do that. Just start off with the answer directly. So that's one point, right? That he was not among the less capable swimmers. What is another point? Now the thing is the way you phrased your answer, it's sort of touching 2 points, but not completely, right? He was thinking that the remark wasn't aimed at him. Uh, that is just paraphrasing or rephrasing the question, so it doesn't count as a point.
He's trying to hide his nervousness
He was trying to hide his nervousness.
by
Uh,
saying this.
that is possible. The organizers were talking to less capable swimmers, so he thought he was a capable swimmer. Yes, right. You have 2 points there. Hiding his nervousness is a valid point, Haram. Uh, right, Afin, as I mentioned, you just rephrased the question, the statement in the question, so that doesn't count as a point. And Bakr, the reason why I said your answer, your line sort of touches two but not completely, is because in the mark scheme they are giving four possible points. One is that he believes he is a capable swimmer or a good swimmer or a strong swimmer. So that's one point. The second point is that he believes that the remarks were intended for less capable swimmers. And so when you say that, right, he was he was not among the less capable swimmers, you can understand that he thinks he's confident and he thinks that it's for the other people who are less capable. So it's sort of then I don't know whether you get 1 mark for this or not. I like 1 or 2 marks. I'm not sure, right? Then the third point is that he is nervous or worried, and the fourth point is that he's trying to hide his nervousness.
Can we say that they are underestimating him?
You can. Are you like checking the mark scheme?
No,
No? Okay.
like what?
Because that is the like uh, one of the ways they phrased it in the mark scheme, that they are underestimating him.
Um, that means I have made some improvement.
Yes, yes, you've made an improvement. You are mind reading the mark scheme. They've also suggested a possible complete answer if they've written, if the student writes they were talking to less experienced swimmers than him, right? And they've given 2 marks. So I believe, given that, Bakar, I believe you would get 2 marks for your response, right? That he was not among the less capable swimmers. So, right, 2 marks for you. Okay, we have plenty of time still. So, moving on to question F. In paragraph 6, how does Matt feel on the morning of the swim? Give two details from the text to support your answer. So the feeling is implicit, obviously, the details are explicit. And as I mentioned, we can work the other way around. We can look at the details first and then try to figure out what feeling they convey. So this is from paragraph 6. Right, and so where did I go? Right, that's paragraph 6. So go ahead, read it, and tell me what you think he's feeling. Right, do we have a response? believe the parrot's trying to answer.
On 9:30,
Line 30.
conversations were muted. He was nervous at the time.
Conversations were muted, the tension was palpable. So these are two details. Now, what feeling would you extract from this?
That he was nervous.
Now, okay, anxious. Afin says anxious. And would you go for the same details as Haram has suggested, Afin? Okay. He was nervous for the conversations are muted and the tension was palpable, and so Duas is the same. Mirza, you are giving the same details, but you're saying awkward, right? Now, the only problem with your response and the way to answer this actually, right? So the problem with uh, the question itself, right? I told you look at the details and then figure out the feeling. But the way the examiner is going to look at it is they're going to check what feeling you've offered, and then they're going to check what details have you given to support the feeling. So you might get 1 mark for the feeling, but if your details are not supporting that feeling, if they're giving something else, you will lose 2 marks. So in total, you're only going to get 1 mark out of this if your feeling and detail do not match, because the way the question is asked is that they're asking the feeling first, even though I told you to look at it the other way. So the point is that your feeling and the text, supporting text, needs to match. So in case of the three of you, Haram, Dua, and Afin, the feeling and the text that you suggested, nervous, anxious, and right, nervous and anxious, that works, right? Because they've given two broad categories of feelings. One is nervousness and one is embarrassment, right? And for nervousness, they've said, oh, you can say he was nervous, he was anxious, he was tense, he was serious, he was apprehensive, perhaps stressed. All of this works for nervous. And then the details for supporting this feeling, the nervousness, is the tension was palpable and the conversations were muted. And there's another one, they assembled solemnly, right? So you need 2 out of the 3, so that works. So you get your 3 points. Bakar, the problem with yours is the other feeling that they have is embarrassment. And for embarrassment, they have suggested awkward and silly. So you can either say he was feeling embarrassed or you could say he was feeling awkward, he was silly. So what's going to happen in that case for you is you write awkward over here, which falls under the category of embarrassment. And then the details that you've written are for nervousness. So you'll get 1 mark for feeling, you lose the 2 marks for the details because they don't match, right? The feeling. Now, what are the details for feeling embarrassed or awkward? So what they suggested is uh, passing amused early risers watching, right? And clad in nothing more than swimming suit, or it was quite a sight. So that part of the text is perhaps showing that he was feeling, uh, right? So passing amused early risers watching, and right, it was quite a sight, this part, and clad in nothing more than swimming suits. So that would reflect the embarrassment or the awkwardness, perhaps. Okay, so when you're answering questions like this, again, it needs to match. Otherwise, right, the examiner will take a look at it in sequence, and if it doesn't match, then it doesn't do well. Okay, question G and H. Can we do this quickly with the time we have? Right, question G in paragraph 8. Matt and Caleb discover a problem that they will face during the swim. What is the problem? And what does the guide suggest Matt and Caleb should do to solve the problem? So, what is the problem and how do they solve it? Paragraph 8. Right, do we have a response? So the problem, Afin, you say, was the strong undercurrent. What about the rest of you? What do you believe the problem was?
A strong undercurrent sets and along the shore.
Right, so the strong undercurrent is the problem. Yes. Right, and so what would be, how do you solve that problem? What was the suggestion to solve the problem? Ah, Barker, okay, so you're saying that the solution is to swim in a straight line, local swimmers. But if you take a look at the text, it says our guide had explained that only the best local swimmers swam a straight line. We'd have to aim left and fight the current, making for the flagpole. So the actual solution is not swimming straight because that was for the best of the swimmers, right? Swimming left or aiming, swimming for the flagpole or aiming for the flagpole is what you would want, right? And I just answered the question for the rest of you. Okay. Finally, question H, explain using your own words Ed's different feeling, right? So this character who is barely mentioned in the text, you want to explain his different feelings using your own words. Three details from the text to support your answers. So you need three feelings and three supporting texts because they're asking for different feelings, right? So it's a combination of feeling and supporting text. So three feelings and three supporting details. And remember that Ed is mentioned over here in paragraph 9 as well. So let's just take a look at the parts where Ed is mentioned. Uh, right, I believe, right, this he's mentioned paragraph 4, and then he is mentioned in paragraph 6, but only saying that there was no sign of him. And then he's over here in paragraph 9. So first let's take a look at paragraph 4. Right? What can you get for the feeling and of
He
course
was
supporting
nervous.
details?
He was curious.
He was nervous. Okay.
Or he was curious.
Hmm?
He was curious.
I'm sorry, I can't make out what you're saying. I got
He
nervous.
was curious.
Curious.
Yeah. He interrogated us about the minor details.
Hmm. Right. So interestingly, they've given that point, uh, that detail from the text interrogated us about minor details, but they have not associated that with curiousness. Now, I find it interesting because I feel that you would get a mark for that, right? I feel that you should get a mark for that, even though it's not in the mark scheme. And what about the nervous part? What is the supporting detail for nervousness? Anna?
Avoiding choking on his picnic and lunch.
Right, so narrowly avoided choking on the chicken, and so that would be the nervousness part, so that works. Dua, you are mentioning that you were shocked on the mention of jellyfish as he choked or narrowly choked, so that's 1 point. There are other points we can get out of this. Hafin, Bakr, right? Bakr, this time you can't say same because there are a number of feelings you can get out of this. And another thing is, even if you're choosing the same feeling, there is more than one text that you can select for that. Oh, by the way, we're only looking at paragraph 4. If I won't be able to fit in paragraph 9, right? So paragraph 9, if we take a look at paragraph 9, what other feelings can we get out of this? Haram, you as well.
Can you repeat
Hmm?
can you repeat what you were
I'm sorry, could repeat that slowly?
can you repeat that what you were saying?
You could, so paragraph 9, right? There's mention of ed in paragraph 9. So again, right, even though you have responded to the question appropriately, but take a look at paragraph 9, see if you can figure out some other feeling for ed based on the information in paragraph 9 and the supporting text, like the supporting detail. And the rest of you guys as well. He was, Afin, you're saying embarrassed because a flustered ed came back. Coming back the other way, so embarrassment can work. Bakr, what's the question? The question is question H, explain using your own words Ed's different feelings about the swim. Give 3 details from anywhere in the text to support your answer. So that's what we're working on. We're currently looking at paragraph 9 because that's where Ed is mentioned, right? With regard, right? Now, because they've mentioned, even though we left this for later, but because they've mentioned anywhere in the text, right, from anywhere in the text. And so we can actually take a look at paragraph 10 as well. Is it 10? No, 11.
Mhm.
Right, so ed
In
is mentioned
paragraph
in
9,
paragraph 9 and 11 as well. Even though we left it for question 2 of the comprehension, we can sort of consider it because the question itself is saying anywhere in the text. Does anxious work for the flustered detail? Uh, Not anxious.
in paragraph 9 on line number 43,
Hmm.
can they get in the water before he could change his mind?
Yeah, so what feeling would you associate with that?
He was not sure,
He was not sure.
yeah, whether he would get the water or not.
Uh, no, like it says he got into the water before he could change his mind, right? So it's not being unsure. He was like impatient, perhaps,
How would that be impatient?
because you are acting before you are thinking about it.
So like does this work for them?
So before he could change his mind, right, is not being assured, is because he didn't give himself enough time to think whether he should be doing this or not, and just did it. That is impatience. Okay, now since we have just 5 minutes, you guys are obviously giving in your responses. Did I miss anything? He was unsure or confused about whether he should continue. Right. So again, right, it was the same explanation I gave to Haram about this. That before he could change his mind, goes with impatience and some other feelings you can associate with that, but not feeling unsure. So I will show you the mark scheme for this one. Let me put it on screen for you guys. There you go. And let's zoom in for this. So, feeling nervous, scared, worried, anxious, right, and cautious. And you can see they've given a number of different parts of text. Animated reaction, narrowly choking on his food. The interrogating part they've included for anxious among others, and right, being flustered. Oh, they have include flustered. That okay? So Afin, yours works. I missed that. Okay, so anxious and flustered works. Okay, and asking how he trained for the swim. Then there's shock. Again, the jellyfish and the choking, and he was upset by the mention of the jellyfish. Uh, Unprepared, unconfident, self doubt, unsure. So the unsure part is working for, interesting. So Dua, yours is correct. And so I'll have to take my lengthy explanation back somewhat, right? I have to go and right. So disclaimer, I did not like sort of look at the mark scheme before I attempted this. I'm doing it with you guys, right? But yeah, so I'd say good, right? You guys are mind reading the mark scheme better than I'm reading it in front of me. So good job on that. So interrogating us, and you can see Haram the curious. They haven't mentioned curious, although I would go for curious for the interrogation part. Keen to get into the water and asking about training. They've used that keen to get into the water. This is the one I was focusing on, right? So they've given determined, eager, impatient, and ready, and so keen to get into the water before he could change his mind, and wanted to get into the water quickly, right? So that is rephrasing that point. Confused, panicky, flustered, right? So, actually, this is interesting. Normally, they wouldn't allow this. Have they given any guidance for this? Not for the word flustered, right? Normally, they wouldn't allow this. Using the same word as the text as the feeling, right? So, despite everything, right, the mark scheme is unpredictable. You can only go with the trends that you know, right? Enjoying, enthusiastic, right? Disappeared recklessly and all that. Embarrassed, again, flustered, apologetically, standing apologetically, and headstrong, right? So again, disappeared recklessly, and we only hear one. So that's from paragraph 11. And so those are all the different feelings and the associated texts for support, and you needed three of those, obviously. Now, the question is, would it work if you include three different feelings or two different feelings from the same category? Writing unsettled and overwhelmed, perhaps. If you give the appropriate supporting text, perhaps it would work. Right, the meeting's about to end any second now, so I'll see you guys next time, inshallah. Right. Uh, yeah, so they don't mention anything if it's from the same category, so it could probably work. Right. Okay. So yeah, meeting just ended, and so I see you next time, inshallah.